Welcome to Building Your Leader Brand. Today on the show, Bob is speaking with Mark Schaefer.
There's this infrastructure in our world that's keeping dull in place, that's keeping competent in place. We've got to break those shackles or we're going to get overwhelmed by AI. And humans are the ones to do that. But you've got to overcome that fear and look at new ways to create that emotional connection that we've ignored for too long.
Hi there and welcome back to Building Your Leader Brand. My name is Bob Gentle and every week I speak with incredible people who share their secrets to building, marketing and monetizing your expertise and the mindset you need for your business to grow and thrive. If you're new to the show, awesome, you're the best, but I would love you to be a regular. So while you're here, before we kick off, take a moment to subscribe. Now, this is a conversation that is going to be a lot of fun today. Mark Schaefer has joined me today. Mark, welcome.
Thank you. No pressure on the fun, but we'll get there.
I'm excited.
We'll get there.
I'm excited. And for the listener, I'm excited for a really good reason. Mark, number one, my favorite marketing author and authority. And number two, he's written a book that I was telling him a couple of minutes ago. It's the first marketing book I've read that's made me stop what I was doing and stare at the wall for 15 minutes because of the profound impact that it's had. But I'm in danger of running away with myself again, Mark. So for the listener who's meeting you for the first time, could you maybe just tell us a little bit about who you are, where you are, and what it is you actually do?
Sure. I'm based in the state of Tennessee in America. I've spent about 40 years in the marketing field and started my own business, I guess maybe about 16 years ago. I was early on the scene in social media and just became immersed in that. It was just endlessly fascinating and started a blog. And the blog led to an invitation to write books, which I never really dreamed of writing a book, but it turns out I was pretty good at it. I wrote the first book on influence marketing in 2012, and it just kind of kept going from there. Today, I do a lot of corporate consulting. I'm a keynote speaker. The book we're going to talk about today is my 11th book. I blog pretty consistently, and I have a podcast called The Marketing Companion, which is now in its 13th year.
So for the listener, if you're listening to this podcast at all, it's because of Mark. When I really wanted to make a big pivot in my business, I was looking for how to make that happen. And your book, Known, was really the catalyst for me really betting on myself and becoming personally very visible. And what's interesting is you think of that as a marketing exercise, but it was very much a personal discovery process as well, in terms of in looking inwards as what is the personal brand that I want to build. I really need to discover, well, who am I? What do I want to stand for? Who do I want to serve? There's so many interesting questions that came up through that. But it's a process that's never really finished. The book that you've written now, I'll hold it up. It may come up as the wrong way around. We'll fix this for wherever you're watching this. Audacious, how humans win in an AI marketing world. I don't think there was ever a book written as well timed as this. AI has been around for a little while. So you as a futurist, I guess you probably have an idea of what's coming. But what was the catalyst for you writing this book?
Well, the catalyst for every book I write is I'm so fortunate in my career that I get to go around the world and talk to business leaders, and I hear what's on their mind and what they're concerned about and what's keeping them up at night. And of course, the thing that's keeping up a lot of people these days is AI. AI, it's a unique time in history where I think we all have to look at AI as the most exciting thing that's ever happened to us in our careers and perhaps the most terrifying. And it's that terrifying part that really represents an existential question. We've got this technology, this idea that we can have abundant, basically free, perfect intelligence at our disposal. What does it do to our economy, our companies, and our jobs when the economic value of intelligence is about zero or near zero? And it's not there yet, but if you're exploring the AI world, you can kind of see the potential. And so it's something I've been thinking a lot about and writing a lot about. I was invited to participate in a research project with Pew Research about the future of humanity and AI. And it really got me thinking about where does humanity still matter in marketing? Where do we fit? What can we own? And I think one of the messages in this book, Bob, is, I'm a realist and I don't sugarcoat things. I don't say, hey, it's going to be all right. What I'm saying is, if you're competent, you're in trouble. AI is competent. AI is more than competent. And more importantly, competency is ignorable. We've got to dig down deep in ourselves. We've got to somehow find unique human fireworks to ignite in this creative world now. And I think my book walks us through a process and a framework to think about what can be uniquely human as we move forward, and what can we own, and how can we succeed. It's not the whole answer, but it's part of the answer.
I think through the book, you give so many examples that it's really difficult to not get the point. And I think a lot of the examples, they are corporate or retail, but you can read between the lines for people like me. There is a huge opportunity here. Mm-hmm. And one of the phrases I liked, and you kind of hinted on that, is that competency doesn't create conversations. And for anybody that's depending on word of mouth, that's really important. It's such a potent little message.
And P.S., we should all be depending on word of mouth. Another message in the book.
Another phrase for me that was really important, because every day I'm having conversations with clients who, when we begin working together, they're very insecure with showing up online in any way. And one of the first things they always say is, I just don't want to add to the noise. And the phrase that really struck home immediately, and I think it might be on one of the very first pages, is that we need to become the signal that rises above the noise.
Yeah. And
that's very easy to say. It's very difficult to do sometimes, which is why I love the spirit of the book. The name of the book is Audacity.
Audacious.
It's not more. It's not simply attention.
Yeah.
But it's how can we understand audacity in order to find our way of doing this. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. One of the things that comes across throughout the book is that you can't be for everybody. You need to stake your claim. You need to say, this is who I'm for, and be okay that that's going to very actively turn some people off. And then you can play the numbers. I'm curious, from your perspective, you kind of know who my audience is. It's the leaders, the creators. It's that kind of person. It's the kind of person for whom this kind of activity is very personal. When a corporation's getting a little bit of rejection, the people in the marketing team will get evil stares. Sometimes somebody might get fired. But when we get rejection as experts and entrepreneurs who are working directly, when we are the brand, that rejection can feel a little bit more visceral. Mm-hmm. Have you any good stories for individuals, for expert brands that have maybe taken that more courageous or audacious approach and won?
Yeah, so there's a lot to unpack there.
Yes.
You make a lot of keen points. And one I want to highlight is, you mentioned the importance of the personal brand and the work that you've done on your personal brand. And that's a key part, I think, in this world of AI, of standing of standing out and transcending, because when AI is nipping at our skill sets and nipping at our careers, there's still going to be someone in your industry, a real person that you want to turn to in this world of misinformation and deep fakes to know the truth. And I didn't hit that hard in this book because I wrote another book about it, but that is a key point that I don't want to be missed. So the book is filled with lots of really inspiring and sometimes crazy examples. But at the end of the book, I emphasize that, audacity or being audacious, it doesn't have to be loud. It doesn't have to be expensive. It doesn't have to be a stunt, but it has to make a difference. And that is the real theme of the book. And let me give you an example. There's a young woman that I've followed on social media, and she hasn't taken my class. I don't think she's read my personal branding book, but she's desperately trying to stand out, trying to be that signal against the noise that you talked about. And when you watch her videos, she's wearing funny hats. She's got spinning lights. She's banging on pots. It's childlike in a way. Like, look at me, mommy. Look at me, mommy. Right? But it doesn't mean anything. She's not making a difference in someone's life. Right? She's becoming known as the stunt. And that's not developing a brand. It's not developing a business. It's not making a difference. So, I mean, that's an important distinction. In terms of sometimes, people may not like where you stand on something. I don't want people to think that you have to be reckless, that, to stand out, you gotta do something stupid or ridiculous or hazardous or something that's, offensive. And a lot of people on social media have certainly gone down that route. It still has to make a difference. You have to show, you can't put up a facade and say, well, I'm going to make this stuff up so that people will pay attention to me. That's exhausting. It's impossible to sustain. It's still what you do in your marketing. It still has to be tethered to your DNA. It has to be tethered to your business goals. It's a new way of expressing you. It's a new way of expressing your business goals. It's a kind of a framework I have in the book that helps people think it through. It's like I'm giving you a new map. Say, well, you tried all these things, and I'm not going to tell you which way to go, but here's a map of some new things to think about. Why don't you try some of these things on?
I think this is something that I find AI makes it very easy to delegate your courage. It makes it very easy to delegate is not quite the right word, but it's very easy to create AI avatars. It's very easy to have AI write a blog post or a YouTube script for you. You could even have AI write and read a podcast episode for you.
Yes.
You could even fake an interview using AI.
Yeah.
And what that means is it's very easy to add to the noise. However, what's missing there is connection. And connection, I guess, is really where my and the listener's opportunity is if we can focus on creating really strong connections, that's where we will really have our opportunity to stand out.
Yeah.
Throughout the book, you give so many good examples of alignment. And I think this is it's a difficult thing for me to articulate because I haven't had that much time with the book for the reader, if I'm honest. But something that shone through for me was there's a phrase that your vibe attracts your tribe. Mm-hmm. I don't know where this comes from, but a lot of people are not transmitting. And if they are transmitting, they're transmitting in such a way that their signal doesn't really stand out. Mike Michalowicz wrote another really good marketing book called Get Different.
Yeah.
And it's a really good book for understanding the importance of difference.
Yeah.
What you provide is a recipe for difference here, which I really like.
It's a recipe, but there's another aspect of this that is, I like Mike's book very much. You said it's about making a connection, right? So, and let's build on that, because that's part of the difference between my book and other books that say, oh, let's get crazy, let's get different. What is branding about, whether it's your personal brand or your business? So you've got performance marketing, you take out ads, you do coupons and all this stuff, right? But brand marketing means building an emotional expectation that when I hear about Bob Gentle, this is what I think. This is what's in my mind, my heart. This is my accumulated experience with this person that makes me want to talk to other people about him and what he does, right? That's the ultimate goal. It's the ultimate goal. It's not just, it doesn't matter if you're different, if it doesn't matter, right?
Yeah.
If it doesn't connect in some way. So it's not the differentiation. It's the connection. It's being different to connect. That's what we need to do to stand out in this busy world. So there's got to be, we've got to tether that to our business goals and to our customers' needs. And so that's really the difference here. The book is built on an emotional connection, and it's built on ideas that have been ignored. So it's there. There's nothing really, incredibly new. I mean, I think there's a part of the book about looking at awe in a different way, which I think is sort of breakthrough thinking. But let's look at, part of the book talks about disrupting the story. So the three main segments: disrupting the narrative, disrupting where you tell the story, disrupting who tells the story. So there was this research by Jonah Berger. I'm sure you've read the book Contagious. And in the book, he talks about this emotional, what makes content go viral? What makes marketing go viral? It's the emotional connection, right? Just as you said, what creates an emotional connection? Well, it's something that makes you happy. It's something that makes you be filled with awe. It makes you delighted, or it fills you with anxiety, or it fills you with fear. Now, that part of the story, that part of the research has been completely ignored. And so I get into this idea about breaking taboos. And again, it's not about breaking taboos to be reckless, or to be a bully. It's breaking bad rules for good reason. And marketing has had a history of that, right? Marketing moves society along. If we see traditions in our world, marketing sort of pokes fun. It says, why have we always done it that way? Why don't we try it this way? And that's breaking a taboo. And so what I'm suggesting is, is that fear in your company? Are you boring because you're afraid of breaking a taboo? Are you boring because you're in an industry where boring has been institutionalized? That's just the way we've always done it. Are you boring because you're afraid? Well, we can't use those excuses anymore. Now, maybe you're boring because the law says you have to be boring. All right, well, you don't want to go to jail. But there are lots of reasons. There's this infrastructure in our world that's keeping dull in place, that's keeping competent in place. We've got to break those shackles, or we're going to get overwhelmed by AI. And humans are the ones to do that. But you've got to overcome that fear and look at new ways to create that emotional connection that we've ignored for too long.
I think this is something that comes up again and again with even my family, which is sort of AI replacing us. Yeah. And I think there are lots of industries where people are justifiably concerned about AI. And I remember, you'll probably remember having conversations back in the early 2000s when Wix and Weebly and Squarespace came along. Suddenly people could build their own websites and the sky was going to fall down for web designers. What actually happened was web designers had to raise their game and they had to focus on quality and customer experience.
Yeah.
And I think, yes, lots of industries will feel the same pinch, but what will rise out of this is people who create connections, people who build legends, people who build stories around themselves. Stories travel. We're in complete control of this. And the more audacious and entertaining and inspiring and connecting those stories are, the more we'll thrive.
Yes.
That does require, in corporations, a different culture, a different way of supporting leadership. In micro businesses, it requires much more visceral courage. One of the things you talk about in the book is how this does require a different company culture, how to support people differently.
Yeah.
It's maybe worth speaking about that a little bit, and people listening to that in their own businesses will probably recognize what that means for them.
Yeah. It's a great story in the book. It's toward the end of the book. The chapter is called The Most Important Chapter in the Book. And the reason is because throughout the whole book, I'm encouraging people to, you have to be more bold. You have to be willing to take risks. You have to, reimagine, how you're telling your story. And, by the end of the book, I imagined that a lot of people are thinking, yeah, but they won't let me do that in my company. Yeah, but if I tried that in my company, I'd probably get fired. And so I interviewed some really amazing, inspiring people who have faced these stories. And one is a woman named Bianca Guimaras. And Bianca grew up in the traditional advertising agency framework. She was with an agency in Brazil. Then she went to work in New York City, worked for one of the biggest agencies in the world, and kind of fought her way through the system. And she talks about how to methodically take risks. And when you take a risk that pays off, well, then you become the person that took that risk that paid off. We want her on our team. So she built on that. And then ultimately, she realized that what was keeping the entire advertising agency world back, the whole industry, is fear. She said the whole industry is run on fear. It's fear of losing a customer. It's fear of losing your job. It's fear of losing an account. It's people, they just go to the most boring idea that's going to get passed through the legal department. She said, we have to come up with a new way of working. And she created her own agency. And her entire agency is basically, we are going to work in a fear-free environment. If you have fear in your company, then you're not going to transcend competence. You're not going to be able to create work that's truly audacious. And there's another woman I interviewed in the book who's a creative director, and she's worked at, she's been a creative director that's worked for, honestly, some pretty boring companies. And she's been able to impact the culture by getting them just to try experiments. And when the experiments work, well, then now she has the credibility to sort of build on that success. And the good news is, Bob, I think that now with AI, we have more opportunities to unleash audacious ideas and audacious content for almost no money. So, there's not even that much risk in going to your boss and saying, we want to try this, we want to try this. Let's just put a little money toward it for 3 months and see how it works. There's such a low-cost digital infrastructure out there to help you ideate and create and test that the risk of trying something bold is less than it ever has been in our history.
Well, my message to anybody listening, if you read one book this year, this is the one. And I don't say that on podcast interviews ever, but I wholeheartedly believe it.
Yeah. My heart just skipped a beat, Bob.
Well, honestly, this is going to be my most gift book of probably the next 5 years.
Oh, wow.
Before this, it was Mike Michalowicz's Profit First.
Mm-hmm.
This is going to be the book that I buy to give to people, whether they're clients or just people I know in business, because it's so in alignment with my personal mission that I want people to bet on themselves. I want people to have confidence to show up as themselves. I want people to really lean into the things that make them awesome. And this book, through the examples, through the framework you offer, really helps them navigate how that can work. It's often through examples that we come to, suddenly I can see how this worked for me. Known was the first time this happened for me. I'm excited by what this book is going to make possible for me in the coming couple of years. So thank you very much for that.
Well, it's been a great experience for me as well. When I finished writing the book, I turned to my wife and I said, I'm sad. I'm sad it's over, because the book is so much fun. It's just some of the greatest, most acclaimed creative geniuses in the world are just sharing their secrets. It put me into a whole new world of ideas and creativity. And so it was energizing. I mean, I actually just looked forward to writing this book every single day. And I knew people would love it, or at least I hoped they would love it. So getting that feedback from you, really, it makes my day. Thank you.
Awesome. So let's jump to part 2. This is where I'm going to invite you to share 3 things people can take action on today. So mental models, books to read, bizarrely, or anything they can take action on. Do you have 3 things for us?
Sure. Well, the first one I hinted at in our discussion, and that is to work on your personal brand. Investing in your personal brand is like investing in an insurance policy for your career. It's the only sustainable competitive advantage that you have. If you are known and your competitors are not, then you will have more doors open. You will have more phone calls returned. You will have more opportunities. And this is something, it took me a long time to realize how important this was. I was telling somebody the other day, like, I've been in business since I think 2008. I didn't even have my photo on my website till 2016. I resisted the whole idea of being, having the center of attention. But the many brands today aren't focused on product attributes, like it cleans better, or it smells better, or even it's cheaper. It's built on who is there. Who is this person? What do they believe in? How can they help us? So that would be number 1. Number 2 is, it's a phrase that I use all the time. It's the subtitle of my Marketing Rebellion book. It's usually how I end most speeches and podcasts. And the phrase is, the most human company wins. And I think that's especially important now, to think about every customer touch point that you have. How can we make this more human? How can we show our face, our heart, our smile, our passion, our compassion in every text message, in every complaint, in every RFQ, in every sales meeting, in every presentation, on our websites, on our digital presence? The most human company will win. And I believe that with all my heart. And I think that's especially important now. The third idea would be, I really do believe in this book that I've written. I had the opportunity to interview Tom Peters a few years ago. He had just written his last book, and he said that he had retired. And then 2 years after that, the great author came back with another book. I said, "What's the deal? You told me you were retired." He said, "I'm desperate to get my ideas into the world. I just feel like people haven't heard me." And that's how I feel about this book too. I think the best writers, the best speakers, they're not doing it to check a box. They're desperate to get ideas into the world. And I know this is a problem. It's an existential issue. Where do humans fit in this AI world? And in my book, it's not a complete solution, but it is a path. There are ideas that will help. And it's not my view of the world. You're going to have access to the best ideas from some of the greatest creative geniuses in the world. And, and the book is cheap. So I really think it's a framework that can help people think in a new way, transcend this wall of noise in our world. We live in a pandemic of dull that's just getting worse. Already AI has created more than 50% of all the content on the web. That's just getting worse. And somehow we've got to rise above all that. And the book Audacious, that will help.
I absolutely echo that. I think if you are somebody who wants to be the signal that rises above the noise, it's a confusing, complicated work. And this is a book that can help you find a way through that works. And this is important for you, because people are very, very different. And it doesn't matter if you're a screaming introvert or a raging extrovert. There's going to be a way to make this work for you in order that you can actually have a business that you really, really enjoy and not feel like you're fighting against the noise all the time, which I think a lot of people do. Mark, I need to bring this to a close. This has been great fun. If people want to go deeper for you, if they want to find out more about you, how do you prefer people do that?
Well, it's easy to do that. You don't have to remember my name. If you can remember businessesgrow.com, you can find my blog, my podcast, the book that we talked about today. And we failed to mention that the book cover is sort of a story in itself. The cover of this book is a QR code. It's a book cover that's never the same twice. It's an infinity cover. So, and it's fun, Bob. People are even saying they have children. They're having fun with the cover, seeing the images on the cover of the book. So, Bob, thank you so much. As always, you're a great interviewer, and thank you for being so prepared. It was just a joy talking with you today.
Well, thank you. And as Mark was saying, I got the book yesterday, and I had a little bit of time to play with the QR code as I was waiting for you to come on the call. And it's mesmerizing. There's QR codes the whole way through the book. I'm looking forward to exploring all these Easter eggs.
Yeah, that's a lot of fun.
This book is a real treat. But yeah, thank you very much for your time. I will put a link to the book on Amazon wherever you're listening to this. And hopefully people will connect with you. I really hope the book is a big success. It really deserves to be.
Thank you, Bob.
So for you at home, that does bring us to the end of another episode. Thank you for listening. And if you did enjoy the show, I would encourage you to leave a 5-star review. That's 5, like the fingers on your hand, wherever you listen to podcasts. And again, if you did like the show, you will love the Personal Brand Business Roadmap. It's everything you need to start, scale, or fix your expert business. Just visit the link in the show notes or visit amplifyme.agency/roadmap. Thanks at home for listening. And Mark, again, thank you for your time.
Thanks, Bob.